Hi there, and welcome to Simple Data Analysis, a Lions University course brought to you by the USA-Canada Lions Leadership Forum. My name is Past District Governor Wendy Kane, and I will be starting us out on the course today. We apologize for the short delay. Hopefully our official faculty member will come on shortly, but we are going to proceed because we have quite a crowd of Lions. We're excited to have you with us for this new topic that we have not presented in the past. I would like to remind you that this webinar is being recorded for those who cannot participate live, or if you would like to review the material again at a later time. We will also be able to have participants engage during this webinar by either asking questions or responding to questions in the questions pane of your participant panel. You can also raise your hand to be called on and unmuted to share information verbally. Today's topic of Simple Data Analysis, course number 317, is an elective course for the Lions University doctorate program that is designed to help Lions lead at the trainer or train the trainer level. The doctorate program involves the completion of one required course and 9 electives. Lions will need to register for an account on lionsuniversity.org in order to access all available courses, take quizzes, and track your real-time progress. Your lionsuniversity.org account requires a different username and password than those who have registered at the members.lionsforum.org website. However, you could choose to use the same username and password if you wish. You can see all of the courses that are currently available or scheduled by going to the appropriate program summary page, and this particular page shows the bachelor's program. As I mentioned, the doctorate program includes one required course and 9 elective courses. There are some other activities that are also required to complete the doctorate program, including a project, completing the master's program, attending a 3rd USA-Canada Lions Leadership Forum, and attending either a Faculty Development Institute, attaining the Lions Certified Instructor Program Certificate, or serving as a faculty for an LCI conducted or funded leadership institute. We currently have 17 doctorate program electives to choose from for completing the minimum of 9 that are necessary, and as we noted, this is a new course, Simple Data Analysis. So would like to take a moment to introduce Past International Director Connie LeClaire-Meyer. She has prepared the material for this webinar, and we hope she's okay and will be joining us shortly, but we will go ahead and proceed with the information that we have. I hope you'll trust my patience. Would someone mind putting a response in the question pane that you can hear us? I want to make sure that we are not muted for all of the participants. We got a couple coming through, so okay. Thank you very much. Just wanted to confirm. All right, so as future trainers of Lions leaders, a topic such as simple data analysis might come up. What is learned in this course will allow you to coach leaders who might otherwise be confused or scared by the topic. When you've completed this course, you should be able to review the LCI Forward components and how they help with data analysis, view data analysis process steps to support successful results, and discover case study actions that lead to success. Five years ago, LCI announced the strategic plan to serve 200 million people annually by focusing our efforts in areas we felt would best get us to that goal. That plan was called LCI Forward, and it provides a strategic framework to help clubs to strive for excellence. This plan was developed by the Long Range Planning Committee of the International Board of Directors and was guided by the association's vision statement to be the global leader in community and humanitarian service. It is a platform for action that will help clubs develop priorities to significantly expand humanitarian service, improve current operations, and pursue new ways to unite people in Lions service. The 4 key areas of focus, as you can see on the slide, are to enhance service impact and focus, reshape public opinion and improve visibility, pursue excellence at the club, district, and organizational levels, and improve membership value and reach new markets. These may sound like abstract ideas, but believe it or not, you may have been participating in LCI Forward all along and didn't realize it. For example, did you know that speaking about Lions to your family, friends, neighbors, and coworkers can help reshape public opinion? It can increase our visibility, and it can attract new members. Did you know that when your club chooses to focus on one of the main LCIF causes, such as diabetes, hunger, childhood cancer, the environment, or vision, that you are enhancing our service impact? Did you know that if your club is talking about doing things in a better, different, or more efficient way, that you're in pursuit of excellence? And did you know that when you reach out to a more diverse community member, or more diverse community members, such as younger people, families, those that have a shared specialty, busy working parents, and others, that you are helping to reach new markets? These are all examples of ways that we live LCI Forward today. Okay, that's great. We know that LCI Forward gives us a platform for a strategic plan, but this is a course on data analysis. So what's the relationship? Change is critical for our ever-evolving association. By understanding our current operations, identifying areas that may need improvement, and then taking measured steps to accomplish goals, success will come. The Club Quality Initiative Guide is one resource that will help, and analyzing data identifies a framework from which we can work. People are fearful of the unknown. It is easier to just do things we've always done because we think of it as being successful. Whether we realize it or not, our community is changing. The pool of potential membership is changing. The reasons why we serve are changing. And yes, we are changing. Are our goals changing too? Simple assumptions can be made about the relationship between strategic planning and data analysis. Let's look at strategic planning. When the word strategy is used, it is usually paired with some form of the word plan, such as a strategic plan or a strategic planning process or planning strategy. The word strategy aligns with the unknown. We think about how we can get from where we want to be in the long term. The word plan assumes precision, organization, steps to follow, usually in the short term or more immediately. A plan is easier to embrace than a strategy as it comes with action steps, and that's what we're familiar with most. Our association has LCI Forward as the strategic plan, and all we need to do is be aware of it and use it. Now let's look at data analysis. Here we're also very fortunate. Analyzing data begins with gathering information. Many of our LCI goals are provided for us, created by headquarters and leadership. We're responsible for gathering the data and entering it. There are many roles in our association that require the data to be analyzed for reporting purposes. If accurate data is not entered, any analysis and reporting will not be thorough. So please enter the data. There are several methods out there to strategize, plan, and analyze. Depending on your level of expertise and time, it will determine how much in depth you want to go. No matter which way you decide to go, we should keep in mind these 3 rules. Simplicity. Keep the strategy, plan, and analysis simple. Focus on the global action team goals of membership, leadership, service, and LCIF before moving on to other topics. It doesn't have to be perfect. Recognize that strategy, planning, and analysis is not about perfection. Every area we serve has different circumstances. Every area starts at a different point. Every area that we serve also has different goals. The important factor here is that we look at the information we have and give it a try. And then logical. Make the logic specific. Discuss and write down the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Some of you may have also heard of that referred to as a SWOT analysis. Record any actions, periodically visit the status of where we are and how that compares to where we want to go, and track those real events and our progress. There are other courses that focus on strategic planning and goal setting. We're not going to do that here. What we're going to do is learn more about data analysis. And we're going to remember simplicity, not perfect, and logical. And then figure out how doing that will impact our goals and help us get closer to our vision. Let's talk about creating a framework for taking our data, analyzing it, and figuring out how we can reach that future state of where we want to be. Most strategies focus on processes, people, and technologies at a specific time in the future. For our organization, that is usually done for us. The district governors-elect are given international goals to complete. Through the North American Membership Initiative, districts are encouraged to create additional goals that come as a result of a district team SWOT analysis. Again, looking at those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. To ensure the framework serves its well-intended purpose, we must fully understand the current state that we have, as well as what will impact and drive that framework towards where we want to be. So that brings us to the simple data analysis framework that we'll be talking about today. The first step is to look at the current state. To make it simple, we're asking the question, where are we now? This sets the stage for what comes afterwards, and a tool many club leaders have access to that can help in this process is the club health assessment. The next step is to look at the data. Again, to help make this simple, we're asking the question, what is driving us today? This step raises issues. Some questions that come to mind are, is the community demanding things from us? Are we performing actions that are successful? Do we want it to stay that way? Are we looking to improve? Are there any opportunities that we should focus on? The third step is to look at the analysis. And in this step, we're going to ask the question, what does the data mean? This step highlights trends, positive and negative. Some examples are, for example, each quarter, every year for the last 10 years has had a drop in membership. What does that mean? Another example might be, This is in the third year in a row we have had to recycle past district governors to become a district governor. What does that mean? Our fourth step is to look at the future state. And to simplify this step, we're going to ask the question, where do we want to be? This step highlights how we serve the public. We want to make sure to get to a place where we don't have a drop in membership in the last quarter of the year. We want to make sure that we have new leadership step up into important roles. We want to make sure that we support our Lions Club's International Foundation so it can continue to serve others. And our final step is to look at the implementation method. And in this step, we're going to ask the question, how do we get there? This step helps give us the roadmap that we can create for the actions that we'll take to reach our future state. I recall being a district governor-elect many years ago and being tasked with creating goals as I was getting ready for the district governor-elect training. I remember it being frustrating and stressful, having to create district goals on topics that in some cases I didn't know too much about. As I've worked with some district governor teams, I find that not much has changed over the years. Our district governor-elects have been given goals with high expectations of meeting them, and I've seen the result of unmet goals, or just not reporting on the activities because they aren't sure how to create, follow through, report on, or even know where to start on some of those goals. And I know there are some learning sessions on this, but it's still a difficult task. And I think part of this may be due to a gap in understanding the data that we're given. If we think about why that might be, if we take a step back and look at the data analysis framework, that might help us come up with a plan or a strategic plan. If we look at where we are now, understand why we're in the state that we're in and what causes us to get there, then look at the data that LCI gives us in the healthy club or district assessments, find out what that means, and then envision where we want to be. That can help us come up with that plan and those action steps to reach that future state. So let's see if this might be true by taking a look at a case study. Our case study is an actual successful case that past International Director Connie was involved with. We'll start with identifying a zone, and in this case, we're going to name it Zone Purple, and the zone chair is Lion Bob. There are 6 clubs in Zone Purple, and things have been going quite well over the last 3 years that Lion Bob has been zone chair. Most of the clubs have good attendance, and everyone has a good time at his meetings. He started bringing in guest speakers, which was a hit. Their recent discussion included a zone service project, and he felt good about what he was doing. At the recent zone chair training held by their district global leadership team coordinator, which Lion Bob always attends because he learns something new each time that he's been through it, he was given something called a Healthy Club Assessment as part of an on-the-job assignment the zone chairs were given. Their final assessment was to analyze the data, bring it to the next zone meeting and discuss what it meant and if anything needed to be done, and then report back to the cabinet meeting on the results. The cabinet meeting was 2 months away. This should be easy, Lion Bob thought as he shoved the document into his backpack. Let's stop here for a moment. Does this sound realistic? Other than maybe the names of the clubs, which past Director Connie took the liberty of naming for herself. Does this sound real, like a realistic task? If y'all can just put a quick response in the questions pane. If you were a zone chair, is this a reasonable task for you to do in 2 months for your zone? Okay, we've got a couple of responses, mostly positive. The task is to look at the healthy club assessment and analyze the data, discuss it at the next zone meeting, what the data means, if anything needed to be done with it, and then report back to the cabinet meeting that was 2 months away. So a couple folks think that might be a heavy lift for a 2-month assignment. We have several folks that think it might be possible. Well, let's proceed and see what we come up with. One month later, Lion Bob was getting ready for his zone meeting, and he remembered the on-the-job assignment he was supposed to complete. He pulled it out of his backpack and started to look it over. There were a lot of thoughts going through his mind as he scanned the club health assessment. Where are my clubs? What am I actually looking at? What does this column title mean? What do these numbers mean? How come some of these areas are in red? What? My clubs haven't been reporting? He started to panic a bit, as he wasn't exactly sure what he was supposed to do with the information in this document. He envisioned what would happen at the cabinet meeting if he didn't do his report, so he got to work. He looked back at the instructions and remembered that the district global leadership team coordinator who taught the zone chair training saying to contact her with any questions. So after going over the document again, that's what he did. After getting off the phone with the district global leadership team coordinator, which was a lengthy 15-minute conversation, he took a look at his notes and started gathering what he needed. The global leadership team coordinator said he should understand his club's status and find out where the zone wants to go. And then together the zone should figure out where they want to be. He drew that on a napkin. She said to refer to the resource titled Club Quality Initiative, so he got that out from his training as well and started leafing through it. And a link to the Club Quality Initiative, as well as the next resource that I'll be sharing, the Club Health Assessment Action Strategies, are included on the course page on our Lions University website. And so she referenced this Club Health Assessment Action Strategies document as a starting point for ideas on how to tackle the areas that might be needing attention. So he pulled out his notes and found a series of questions he remembered the Global Leadership Team Coordinator walked through to move the process along. Then he looked at the club health assessment again, this time with a more informed perspective. Let's get a little closer look at that club health assessment. The first step he took was to locate and highlight his clubs on the club health assessment document. The next step was to review all of the data for his clubs just to better understand their current state. He then made note of some outstanding items, such as anything in red, anything with a negative number, and anything with no data. He determined the following. Under status, all 6 clubs are active. Under membership, 5 of the 6 clubs have more than 15 members. All 6 clubs have added at least 1 new member. It's this column. 1 of the 6 clubs has not dropped any members. 5 of the 6 clubs have a net growth so far. And 2 of the 6 clubs dropped members that had an average of 24 years of service. Under the reports, 2 of the 6 clubs were at least 3 months late in MMR reporting. 2 of the 6 had repeat terms of president in the rotation. None of the 6 had a vice president reported, and all 6 clubs had at least one officer without an email address. Finally, 1 of the 6 clubs had not reported any activity, while a second club was behind over a year in reporting service activities. Under finance, none of the 6 clubs were delinquent in their account balance. And under the LCIF donations for the current fiscal year, 3 of the 6 clubs showed donations to the Lions Clubs International Foundation. So he identified this as the current state of his zone. Lion Bob remembered the discussions at the past zone meetings about what the clubs are doing for their communities. His notes showed that most clubs were doing more fundraisers than service projects, and that most of the service projects involved vision screening for kids. That seemed to be the favorite service project. His thoughts drifted and questions developed. Are there other service projects these communities might need? Have the clubs done a community needs assessment to find out? When was the last time something new was tried, either a fundraiser or service project? He identified this as the motivation of the clubs to help their communities. When Lion Bob finished writing down the questions, what jumped out at him now was that one club was in trouble based upon the data he was seeing. While the club was reported as being active, they had less than 15 members, they had dropped 8 members, had no membership growth, members leaving averaged 11 years of service, they hadn't submitted an MMR or service reporting, officer email information was missing, and there were no donations to LCIF identified. He also noted the club was represented only once at one zone meeting, and that was by the 3rd vice president, who was a new Lion. He didn't recall seeing anyone from this club at the last few district conventions either. To him, the data meant this: one club was in trouble and the other clubs are doing better. One club seems to be doing really great. His thoughts began to wander again, and he asked himself, I wonder what that one club is doing that the others aren't. I wonder how the other club in trouble keeps its head above water. He realized he hadn't looked at the club health assessment like this before, and his agenda for the next zone meeting just might have to change. He identified this as getting a better understanding of what the data meant. As he rearranged his zone meeting agenda, he inserted an icebreaker question. He had remembered the district global leadership team coordinator had used something like this to get people talking. He wrote down the question, what do we want to do and why? He was hoping to get the clubs starting to discuss what they really want to be known for. That might help him and them to make improvements. Lion Bob knew that he couldn't do this by himself, so he contacted the district global leadership team coordinator, shared what he wanted to do, and asked if she could also attend the zone meeting. He also included on the agenda a brainstorming session on how the clubs can get to where they want to be in the future. He brought out the club health assessment action strategies and looked it over and decided to share it with his clubs. He started to get excited about the zone meeting and wondered how the clubs would react. He hoped it wouldn't cause them to stop coming. Okay, let's stop here a moment and think about what happened with Lion Bob and his zone. He felt everything was going well in his zone because people were showing up at the meetings and they were having a good time. He recognized that it might not last forever, and after viewing and analyzing the data in the club health assessment, knew that he had to get busy and get his zone in better shape. Note here that the questions that were asked in each step of this process were reflective more than anything else. There's no right or wrong answer. They're designed to get you thinking. This can be used in any situation where a data review is needed. For example, you could use this in looking at the Campaign 100 dashboard for the Lions Clubs International Foundation, or in any report to the multiple district council or the district cabinet. So you might be asking, what happened to Lion Bob and his zone? Lion Bob readjusted his agenda to include his analysis and the icebreaker and breakout discussions. He contacted his clubs by telephone and said he had an important project to discuss with them. He met with his zone, with all clubs in attendance. Yes, even the one who was in trouble. He laid out his data analysis process and the results, and asked for feedback from the clubs in attendance. He asked questions like, what do you think this means for our zone? What are some strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that you see? What is the priority among those items that you've identified? Where and when do we start? And what can each of us do to support each other and to support our zone? After the zone meeting, which he considered to be a success, he prepared his report to the cabinet. This was the instruction from his on-the-job assignment. He stated in his report that the steps he had taken and the results. He recognized that not everything was a success, but he gave it a try. The cabinet cheered him on after his report. The other zone chairs gathered around him afterwards and were asking questions about what he did so that they could duplicate it. Lion Bob went home with a smile. At the next cabinet meeting, the third vice president of the Troubled Club attended the cabinet meeting with him and was introduced around. Yes, he was a new member, and he was happy to hear that someone cared about his club. With good data to analyze, a process to follow, resources to reference, and support at every turn, data analysis can be simple and will lead to success. All right. I am going to go to our objectives that we started the meeting with to see how we did at accomplishing the objectives. We reviewed the LCI Forward components and how they help with data analysis. We viewed the data analysis process steps and how to use those for successful results. We discovered some case study actions that led to success within that particular zone. I think what's interesting about that case study is, we can each apply that at a club level as well. The Club Quality Initiative certainly helps with that. And again, that's a resource that's available on the course page. But looking at the data for our individual club performance can help us follow a similar process. And I'm going to open up and see if, before we wrap up, if there are any questions or comments about this topic. Have many of you seen the club health assessment in the past? You can chime in with the within the question plane. And at a minimum, just for an example of some of the data that's available to us, does this help you look at that club health assessment form a little bit differently? Let's see, we got a couple of questions that come in.
You have a question, Wendy, that this is past District Governor, past Council Chair Gary Steele. It says, who has access to the data from LCI?
Well, I know from a club health assessment standpoint, I don't know who all it's distributed to, and Connie may be able to answer that, or someone else. I know as a zone chair, I see that club health assessment just for my zone clubs, and there's a version that the district governor sees for all district clubs. I don't know who else gets that distribution. I would assume the Global Action Team members get a copy, the vice governors, the district governor team. But I don't know how more broadly it would be distributed. And I think Lion Craig commented similarly that it would be important to recognize who has the data to see it. Let's see.
We also have a comment that where the person is from Lion Sharon that they don't do strategic analysis, and it would be a good thing to do it.
I think one of the other things that I've noticed as we've done goal setting within the districts or with district governors leading up to their year, we always have that goal for membership growth, or we have a goal for establishing new clubs. And if you look at the trends going back to the what our current state is and what the trends show over time in the past, it can help us maybe come up with more reasonable targets. For years, I know in our district the goal was to have one new club in each region every year. Well, that was 4 regions, and we had a track record of getting about one new club every 4 years, not 4 every year. So while that sounded good and it was something to work towards, it was maybe not necessarily as realistic in the past. So I think a lot of times we see the data, but the key thing to look at is what is the data telling us? Really looking at it, and not just as it's a number or a dollar amount or a no report for numbers' sake, but taking the time to find out what that means. What other questions or comments do we have?
There's another question. Is this information available on my LCI or my Lion?
That is a good question. We may need to get back with you on. Someone is responding no. So thank you, Sharon, if you're sure of that answer. I have not seen it there, but again, I think it's distributed from LCI to the relevant positions that they have email contact for. And so I know at some points our district governors have forwarded out to the cabinet or to the district governor teams. Again, I get the zone. That could be something to forward out and share with each individual club of the zone. See, I have a couple of questions that I think have scrolled past us. Dawn, thank you for your feedback. You receive that assessment every month, and now you have a different perspective on the data and how to use it. So appreciate that feedback. I'm not sure, Roland, I understand your question on how class-based policies help with specificity of a community that has been historically wronged. So I don't know if you can clarify that, or if you want to raise your hand, or Gary, if you can unmute Roland Dunham if he's able to participate by phone and answer that or clarify his question.
Roland, it appears that you're self-muted. You're going to have to unmute yourself. There you go. You should be able to talk now.
Yeah. I had a question regarding the policies. Like, I'm American, so I'm an American Alliance, the guy that's from America. So there's like a lot of some of the policies that I see that they're like really, really bland and doesn't deal with the specificity of some of the communities. Like in my community, I noticed that, not my community, but in general, some African Americans, they were shut out of Lions Club until like 1967 or so. And like, so there's like a historical precedent. And then when you have policies that are class-based, it kind of like puts us further and further behind. So what policies or what agendas that you could create to cover that situation or try to make it, rectify it, to make it better, to increase like recruitment and stuff of that nature? Hello?
I'm thinking.
What,
Go ahead, Gary. Sorry.
I was going to say, Connie, if you have any suggestions, you're welcome to chime in at any time.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Gotcha.
All clear.
Yeah.
Super. Hi, everybody. Hi, Roland. Thanks for your question. What can I ask? What perspective you were speaking of? Are you talking about specific data analysis about this
As in,
topic?
like yeah, it's historical. It's a historical reference based upon the data, because like in the guise of like there's not really a heavy presence of Black or African American people that participate in lioness in America. I don't know about within around the world, but I know in America it's kind of, we're not really as the level that we should be competitive enough within lioness. That's what I'm getting at. So what initiatives or what things that you guys can create to cover that? Because I noticed that in 1987, you guys had an agenda for women and actually did things to help them to get into political positions and stuff of that nature. So what initiatives are you guys going to get other minority groups, or specifically the minority groups that were harmed?
Well, I can tell you, Roland and everybody else, my experience when I was on the board the last 2 years, I was part of LCI Forward. I was on that committee for 1 year. And that year that I was serving in that regard, they had hired a company. Well, they didn't hire it. It was a company that on a grant program was specifically put in place to do demographic study in I think 3 or 4 different countries outside the US, because it was easier to find data in the US than it was in other countries. And the whole purpose behind it was primarily to look for membership. What are some other things that we might be missing out on because we don't understand the current demographics of our membership? And what they found from that, from what I recall, is not so much what you're talking about, but more along the lines of groups of people, things like single mothers or families with only 1 children, and those types of things came through in their results than anything else, which was a surprise. They weren't expecting that, but from that came, when you talk about initiatives, came more questions than answers on how do we actually approach what is happening today, because it's nothing like it was 20, 40, 60, 100 years ago. And so the good part about the LCI Forward, which is why it was put in here, is that we finally have a long-term strategic plan that will get us out of where we have been over the last couple of decades. So an initiative to address it, I think what they're looking at first is trying to understand it. And it's on a global scale, not just in the United States. So that's the only thing that I can talk about, Roland, my personal experience with sitting on the board and serving on LCI Forward.
Okay, thank you, Connie. The let's see. There was Dawn had a comment about maybe sharing this type of information at visitations, and should the information on the other clubs be shared during those visits. And I would probably pull out the club specific information and just share their own with them, unless, like in the case of the study that we went through, where you can have clubs that are maybe in stronger areas share some of the things that they're doing, if that can help inspire and provide some ideas to clubs that may be struggling in different areas. But if that can kind of be summarized without providing the individual data, I think it would be important to keep clubs focused on their own information. Let's see, it looks like Daniel has a comment about clubs that have low members, and if the club has not reported the membership, or their officers, but they pay their dues. The question is, do you drop them or keep them as members? They do vision screening, but that's it. How can you reduce them? I would say I wouldn't drop members who have paid their dues, certainly, but if you can inspire them and let them see some of the other opportunities that are available in their community to serve and to make an impact, and go through that process, the SWOT analysis that we talked about previously, again, looking at understanding where they are and getting excited about a future state that may be more motivational to them to take the steps in between. Let's have
I have a question from Sheila that says, how can we help clubs that are still acting back in the old days and do not want to get into the new going forward? How do we help them? That's an interesting question, because I just participated in the district governor-elect training, and that was one of the topics that we talked about during that training. And a lot of the perspectives were that sometimes you are not going to be able to change those clubs. So you need to look at your demographics in your community and see if maybe it's time to start a new club that is interested in moving forward and getting the perspectives that your community needs, and let both clubs work in the same area.
there have been a couple questions about accessing data like that club health assessment, and I think I accidentally pressed delete instead of highlighting a comment. Not going to highlight what everyone has said, but kind of a summary of it is that it does not appear that it's available online, but if you are interested in that, you can ask, depending on your role within your club or district, you can ask your zone chair for that information specific to your club, or if you're in a role where you're serving clubs at the district level, ask your district governor or the district governor team that it's just should be distributed to all of them, and ask them to forward that information to you. And it is sent out each month. And I think Homer raises a good point as we get close to wrapping up, that each club has to set a culture where they want to change. If not, we're going to die out as an old white man's club in the United States. So that, I think we're just going to die out as clubs if we aren't willing to change. And that we talked about that a little earlier in the webinar, of everything else is changing around us, and we need to look and keep the best of the past, but look at those opportunities and ways to continue to move forward. And I think I'm just trying to scroll down. There's a few more comments. Thank you all for your comments. We'll also go back through them and when we wrap up, and just make sure if there's anything that wasn't specifically addressed that we can reach out by email and respond. But I think it appears most of those comments we have picked up.
I agree, Wendy. It looks like most of them are just comments about the
Darlene has a
where
resource.
You can find things and what teams.
Yeah, Darlene has a resource, and I will add this to our course page on Lions University website about how to reach your healthy club assessment. She did a search on how to find it, and it appears that it now may be generated included under the membership reports toolbox. And there's an option for club and district health assessments under there by year. So thank you, Darlene, for that information. And it appears it may be one big file, but you can search with Control F to put in your district. And I will include that on our website for any folks that want to pull that information. All right. Let's see, Sharon asked to review again the questions that the zone chair had in relation to the data. Let me go back to that. Let's see, in our case study. Not finding that.
Wendy, this is Connie.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
This is Connie, Wendy. I added all those questions in the handout. So if they look at the handout, they'll find under each of the 5 different questions, the questions that the zone chair used in the case study.
Okay,
excellent. That's what she was asking.
Thank you. Perfect. And the handout is attached. I think you can access it from your control panel here. It's also on the website. So please check out that handout. Thank you, Connie. And I think we've got it. Any other questions or comments as we wrap up? All right, I would like to remind you to not forget to go online, log in, and take the quiz for course 317. And we thank you for your participation this evening.